you have to ask yourself, do I want to pass this guy clean? Do I use my bumper now? And if you use your bumper, that's definitely going to cause some anger. So.
Welcome, everyone, to the Driving Vision podcast brought to you by the Zeigler Auto Group. And here with me, Auto Group Director of Talent Development, Mike Van Ryn. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, thanks, Sam.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, like it if you do, and leave a comment. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of the Driving Vision podcast. So with us today, NASCAR race car driver, Zeigler-sponsored number 78 Live Fast, Josh Bilicki. Josh, welcome.
Sam, thank you for having me as always.
Josh, you've been a frequent guest on the podcast, and it's always fun to talk to you before you go into a big race weekend. This weekend is big. You got to go to Nashville, and then straight from Nashville to Chicago. We want to spend most of our time today on the Chicago race, but what do you expect in Nashville this weekend, the home of country music?
Yeah, so I'm in Nashville right now. You can see in the background. I'm at a pretty goofy hotel here. Actually, it's a nice hotel called.
That is goofy.
So
yeah.
it's unique, but
Yeah.
I mean, this explains Nashville right here. It's a fun atmosphere. Being downtown is a lot of fun. I rode the little scooter all the way downtown last night. I was by myself, so I didn't go out or anything, but I just drove the scooter around, and it's cool to see the atmosphere here. And when NASCAR comes here, it seems to up that atmosphere even more. It's always fun to come to Nashville for the atmosphere, but to race here too is really cool. The racetrack here is unique. It's a concrete oval, 1.3 miles, so it's a little bit shorter than most of the intermediate tracks we go to. It's concrete, a little bit less banking. So this track is long, but it feels like a short track. So I love racing here. We raced here last year and in 2021. It's a relatively new track on our schedule. It came out in 2021. The first race in the NASCAR Cup Series was here. So I've been fortunate enough to race here each year. And yeah, man, I love coming to Nashville. And last year I was fortunate enough to have Zeigler.com on the car. And this weekend, again, we have Zeigler.com on the car. So I'm excited. You know, it's Friday today. We're on track later today for our 50-minute practice session. Tomorrow we got one lap of qualifying. That's it all day. And then Sunday we go racing at 5 Eastern time. So it's a night race, which is the first for us in the Cup Series here. So it's going to affect the track a little bit. You know, the sun's not going to be baking the track. So we'll have some small things to learn, but every single team will. And I'm just excited to get back behind the wheel.
Well, we're excited to see you race there and representing the Zeigler name there in Nashville. So Nashville obviously is famous for country music, and it's got a famous place where all the, every bar and restaurant has incredible music. After the race on Sunday night or Saturday night, do you see NASCAR drivers walking up and down the main street there in Nashville listening to the music, or what's the scene like after? Do people go out and celebrate if you win?
Oh yeah. The winner will probably spend the night here in Nashville, and they'll probably not even have a way home one day, and they'll just figure it out. But they can do that because they won the race. So it is cool to come here, see the industry. I mean, whether it's at our hotel, you know, we have a little bar downstairs at the hotel, or whether it's on the strip, people in our industry love coming here. And last year I was here with a couple buddies, and it was, I think, a Thursday night. And I saw, several other drivers out just kind of wandering the streets, and, you know, they're kind of all doing what I'm doing. You know, this is work for us. So we can't really go and party and have too much fun. But you can still go out and people see, and that's exactly what I do. So it's really cool to come here and see the whole industry having fun as a whole away from the racetrack, because for me, usually when I see the industry, they're working, but when they come here, it is pretty cool to see, you know, even people from other teams, you know, having fun together. You know, you don't see that all the time at the racetrack, because at the racetrack they're competitive and they want to beat each other. But at the end of the day, you know, they're so alike, so like-minded, even though they're with another team. Away from the racetrack, they get along. So it is pretty cool to come here and see all that happening.
Well, it'll be fun to see the drama. By the time this is recorded, Nashville will be in the books. We'll know the results, and it'll be fun to see what ended up happening. The next weekend, weekend of Sunday, July 2nd, you turn to Chicago, which is our home race. It's our biggest race of the season because we have so many stores in the Chicagoland, Josh. We're excited to have you represent the Zeigler name. You're going to do some in-store visits. Tell us a little bit about NASCAR in Chicago and how unique this is.
It is unique. I mean, unique is the perfect word for it, because it is the first time the NASCAR Cup Series has ever raced on a street circuit. So when I say a street circuit, I physically mean a street circuit. So they're closing the streets down, building a racetrack in the streets in downtown Chicago. And it's happened in other countries in Formula One and in IndyCar here in America, but NASCAR has never raced on a street circuit. So the NASCAR cars that we race are obviously a lot different than Formula One. They're a lot bigger. They're a lot heavier. They're really fast in a straight line. They don't handle as good as Formula One cars because they're a lot heavier, less downforce. So there's a lot of unknowns. How are the cars going to race? How are the cars going to react around the bumps? There's a lot of bumps. It is literally a street road. And, Sam, from driving downtown Chicago, it's pretty bumpy. So there's a lot of unknowns, but every single team is in the same avenue. And I think that's what's exciting. All 36, actually, there's going to be 38 or 39 teams because Jimmy Johnson's racing and there's some other guys coming from other countries that are going to be racing this race. It's such a big race. It's attracting all these personalities to the track to drive. There's concerts going on throughout the weekend. It's such a big weekend. And for me, this is my Daytona 500 of the year. It is my biggest race. And for you guys too, to have Zeigler Group have so many locations near the racetrack, it's going to be really cool to have those black and yellow colors on the racetrack in downtown Chicago.
Yeah, so Chicago's a city we all love. It's got an iconic skyline. It's got an incredible history. One thing it's not known for are the quality of streets, potholes, and other things. How on earth have they made the streets ready for a race? I know the precision that's required out of the course. That must have been pretty monumental coming into the weekend.
Yeah, so I know that they filled in some potholes, but on the other side of potholes, you have bumps, whether it's just rubber or rocks have just hardened and became part of the road. The track is not going to be smooth at all. And talking with my team last weekend, we were on the simulator and we were just talking about which direction we want to go with setting up the car. Myself and a lot of other drivers feel that you need a car that handles better over the bumps than you need a car that's going to go fast. And basically you need a car that has 60% ride quality, 40% speed. And if you have a car that has 60% speed, but 40% ride quality, you're not even going to make it over the bumps, because you're literally going to be jumping bumps. And if you had a camera panning on a race car over this racetrack, slow motion, you're going to see tires coming off the ground, literally jumping. And when there's no tires touching the racetrack, how do you turn? You don't, so it's going to be interesting to see what setups people bring. We have one 50-minute practice, which isn't that long, honestly. It's long compared to the style of racing that we do now, because usually we come to race and we only have a 20-minute practice. So a 50-minute practice is nice, but by the time you make adjustments, and there's going to be a lot of adjustments that need to be made because we've never raced here or anything like this, there's going to be maybe only 20 or 25 minutes of actual on-track time. So myself, I've been lucky. I've been able to run the racetrack on the simulator a little bit with Chevy, and the racetrack on the simulator was bumpy and it was exhausting. And 15 laps around there, I was sweating, and that's just on the simulator. It's going to be wild for sure. But man, I'm so excited for it. I feel like it's our best shot to go out there and, maybe score a potential win, an upset win, which I think would be phenomenal, or even a top 10. A top 10 for our small team would be a great day. And I think that's a track that we can do it at.
So do you foresee there could be a bunch of wrecks? I would imagine, given the uneven surfaces and just what you have, there's got to be a bigger chance of more wrecks, I would think, no?
I do. Yes, I do. And I'm a little bit nervous about that. I'm not nervous about driving the racetrack, nervous about what can happen with other drivers for a couple of reasons. If I'm running 15th and the 10th place driver just makes a mistake and pushes too hard into the corner and misses his braking zone by 50 feet, there's no runoff area. So if you watch Sonoma, which was our last race, there's gravel and there's runoff area and there's paved track off the racetrack surface. So if you miss your braking zone, you just go wide and you rejoin the track. Here, there are no zones for any of that. So if you miss your braking zone by 50 feet, you are literally in a tire wall. If you carry too much speed around a corner and the rear of the car spins out from you, you're going to be stopped in the middle of the racetrack, and those cars behind you have nowhere to go. So that's a little bit concerning for us, because it literally could be a full track blockage. And if I'm stopping the racetrack to avoid somebody else, hopefully nobody behind me doesn't see me, or hopefully they do see me and they don't pile into me. So, I'm a little bit nervous about that. And I'm also nervous about just the style of racing that these NASCAR racers, they have. I think, Sam, every time you watch a road course race, there's bumping and grinding. And if we do that here, it's not going to end good. So I'm just really hoping that everybody uses their head and we make it to the end of the race with no attrition. There's going to be attrition, but hopefully we're not involved.
So does anyone go to fists over this? We've famously seen this year, I think we've seen more altercations between drivers than maybe we've seen in any prior session. Some of the best drivers out there have gotten into it with each other. And I think NASCAR the world of NASCAR loves it, right? Because it's drama and it's exciting and it's edgy, but interesting to see what happens in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's so passionate. Everybody works so hard. This is our living. This is our profession. We put so much time and energy into making sure we're prepared for these races. So when something happens and you get spun out early in the race, or if you're in a good position in the late part of the race and you get spun out, people get upset. And I got so upset after Sonoma last week and 2 weeks ago.
Sonoma.
Pretty good spot. And we got spun out, and I felt like I wanted to go use some fists. Man, I think that Chicago is going to provide all the action. I mean, there's going to be, if it's one lap to go and you're in second place, you have to ask yourself, do I want to pass this guy clean? I don't know if I can pass him clean. Do I use my bumper now? And if you use your bumper, that's definitely going to cause some anger. So it's going to be exciting for sure. People are going to want to tune into this one.
So with so many stores across the Chicagoland, the Zeigler Auto Group is proud to have you driving that car with our brand, and you'll have some opportunity to meet customers, in our stores. You can go to Zeigler.com. You can go to our individual store sites for times and locations. But from Racine, Wisconsin, all the way down to Orland Park and up and around the Chicagoland, Schaumburg, and elsewhere, there will be opportunities for fans to come out and meet you, sign a hero card, ask you questions. We've got a mock car that people will be able to see at a couple of the locations. It's going to be fun to have you out doing those meet and greets. How do you stay so calm the week of a race? Something I've noticed about you is, you can be 5 minutes before you get in that car and you've got to be super competitive focused. And yet leading up to it, in that period leading up to it, you do have a calm about you. Any thoughts, any tips for remaining calm before fierce combat and competition, Josh?
Yeah. So being a race car driver doesn't just mean that I drive the race car. I have so many different roles throughout the week, but also leading up to the race. Leading up to the race on race day, we have the driver meeting, we have the red carpet walk, we have autograph sessions. I'm spending time with you guys, Zeigler Auto Group, spending time with my team. I'm having meetings. I'm spending time with my family. There's so much going on before the actual race. And I mean, we're literally talking about the pre-race ceremonies and the national anthem. I'm still spending time with you guys and taking pictures, and that's 10 minutes before I strapped in the race car to go race. And it wasn't always like this to calm before the race. My first couple of NASCAR races, I was not wanting to talk to anybody. And sometimes you see people put headphones in and kind of try to block all that out, but it's really hard to do with the current format of NASCAR. And obviously, Sam, without the Zeigler Auto Group, I wouldn't be racing. So I want to spend as much time with you guys before the race as I can. So for me, once the helmet goes on and I'm inside the race car, that's when I shut everything else out and I'm focused on being a race car driver. But before the race, I'm open, and I know that, my role as a race car driver comes with, meet and greets and autograph sessions and taking pictures. And I love it. Honestly, I love being with people at the racetrack. I think it's a lot of fun. So it's just something that with time, I've gotten a lot better at being calm during the race week. There's definitely some nerve, especially at some racetracks, there's more nerves than other. Looking at Chicago, I think I'll be pretty calm. Honestly, it's comforting to know that my background is road racing. So not on street circuits like that, but on road racing circuits, like, you're turning left and right. So that makes me a little bit more comforting knowing that that's my background, and I have probably more laps on road courses than most of the field. But yeah, it is tough. My first couple of races in NASCAR, which was all the way back in 2016, I was not calm before the race for sure. So, the more you do something, the better you get.
Yeah, you do a great job today. Well, last question, and then we'll wish you luck as you come into this all-important next 2 weekends. What's one thing that would surprise most people, that most people may not realize about NASCAR? The life of a NASCAR driver, or a NASCAR as a sport? What's something that might surprise our fan base?
Honestly, I think how smart the engineers and the people that are involved in NASCAR are. Not just the drivers, not just the engineers or the team members, but also NASCAR, the industry as a whole. I mean, the NASCAR, the people that work for NASCAR themselves. There are drivers that, I think are very smart, and there's drivers that, their profession is racing cars, but they also run other businesses. I look at Brad Keselowski. He's a great example because he runs a company called Keselowski Automation Manufacturing. And he makes parts for SpaceX, which I think is really neat. So, the drivers are very smart. I know that some people label us with Southern ties, and some of that's true, but there's a lot of really smart people from around the country and around the world too that come to NASCAR and work in our industry. And whether that's a crew chief, whether that's the pit crew members, the guys going over the walls and changing our tires, majority of them came from, the NFL or college football or baseball or basketball. They're all really athletic guys. And I think that's really cool
backgrounds.
To see. Yeah. I think that's really cool to see. So I think people underestimate the talent level in NASCAR. And, I think with this new car coming in last year, I think we're proving some of those people wrong.
Well, Josh, we're excited to see you race. Nashville will be in the rear by the time this airs, and then on to Chicago, an iconic race in a first-time experience. We're going to be there live with you, so we're excited to see how that goes, and we're just super excited you're representing the Zeigler numbers. So, in name, Josh Bilicki, NASCAR race car driver, thanks for being with us on the Driving Vision podcast.
Sam, thank you so much.
Until next week, how are you driving Vision today?